Morning everybody, this is Steve from the Worley Bugger. Smack dab right in the middle of July the 17th. Got a little resort float going here. Got their cover. They're good to go. So high water in the Yakima. Look at the speed that it's moving. Pushing tight up against the banks. And we have a, in the sun, 64.4 water temperature. So if you haven't been following along, we're in a drought year, so that's why we're watching that, watching air temperatures, watching water temperatures to see how they fluctuate during the day. We've had a hot spell here, not triple digit heat, but high 80s, low 90s, which pretty normal for this time of year. Still big temperature swings too, which are actually helping keep water temperatures in check for sure. Cold nights, colder, I mean down in the 40s, you know, so we're having some days 50-degree temperature swings. Now how long that will last, you know, that's hard to say, but we'll take it when we can get it for sure. So a couple of things people ask constantly. The first questions that comes out of their mouth, how's the fishing? Well, it's kind of a loaded question really for somebody working in a fly shop or somebody that's been in the business for 30 years. Fishing is really kind of a state of mind. And really dependent on what the person thinks fishing is all about. Like, if you really want to know, you would ask, how's the catching? So, and again, that's really dependent. Like, we really see a very, very diverse group of people at certain times of the year. Spring, we see definitely more hardy fishermen that are willing to, you know, come out in adverse conditions, you know, cold, maybe rain, maybe snow, wind, you know, and fish, you know, and enjoy, you know, what God is giving us. In the summer months, like now, you know, when we have 100-degree temperatures, you know, we get people that call that want to go trout fishing. There's not many places in the world where trout fishing is really, really good at 100 degrees. Now, our river, you know, with its flow structures and extreme flows that they are, can produce fish at those temperatures, but on a day-to-day basis, you're not going to find that. And then in the fall, you know, we get kind of a wide range of fishermen. The more serious folks come out, along with those just kind of stepping into the sport, which is great. We love to have everybody, but you got to keep it in perspective. And then another thing people always ask me is, what's the hot fly? Like, I don't know, it has to be like one of the dumbest questions a fly fisherman can probably speak. Like, there's, I don't know, in the world, there's probably 2 million flies, you know, so Yeah, there's certain flies that are gonna work better on certain days for sure, but what one fly produces one day might not necessarily produce again the next day. It's really about the fisherman and how the fisherman is fishing the fly. That's really what it's all about. Not that there's one hot fly that's gonna catch all the fish. It's really about how the fly is presented, where it's presented, and then how it's presented to the fish. So just keep that in mind. But as a fly tyer, you know, there's flies that we believe in and flies that we trust, that we know, you know, work well, you know, at different times of the year and under different circumstances. And those are just things that you learn over time and experience. And that's what it comes down to. Is it all comes down to experience. And this is a sport that you have to participate in. You have to do it. You have to do it a lot to get good at it. You can't just come out once or twice a year, expect good fishing. That's not really participating. And I'm not saying going with a guide once or twice a year. I mean, you know, going on your own and exploring, you know, going out, you know, being in nature, you know, and fishing on your own, you know, fishing in new places will teach you a lot. And that's what it's really, you know, that's what it's about. And that's how you're going to propel yourself, you know, and push yourself into the sport, you know, and become better and better. So then on those days you know, and you'll see as you fish more and more that there's days that are really good and days that are, you know, where the catching might not be as good, but there's other things that are good. There's where we've gotten to. Man just wants to be comfortable. So river fishing in the Yakima this time of year, you know, fast, very quick speeds, you know, the boat, you know, moving along. Wade fishing, you know, I've given some advice over the last couple of weeks, so if you haven't heard that, you can go back and scroll through our river reports. But big volumes of water, expect that the rest of the month, and we'll see what August has to produce. We'll keep watching those water temperatures, air temperatures. But you know, we're not the only ones in water dilemmas here. You know, it's happening all over, you know, the western parts of the states, Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, you know, lots of places are dealing with, you know, very low water and extreme water temperatures. And you know, we're only in the middle of July here, so and again too, keep in mind, you know, this time of year not a lot of bugs hatch at 100 degrees. They just, you know, they're, you know, susceptible just like we are as humans, you know, to the heat. So the hatches that you are going to find are going to happen, you know, earlier in the day or in the evening when it cools down. So with that being said, as you can see right here, this is a perfect example. Got a nice flow coming in along structure, pushing along grassy banks. Fish aren't dumb, you know, they find out where the food sources are. They know from past experiences. And you know, when mayflies and stoneflies, caddisflies become non-existent or not as prevalent, they'll move in along the grass, you know, and start feeding on terrestrial life forms. So grasshoppers, ants, beetles, any kind of non-aquatic bug that may be crawling around in the grass gets knocked in or gets blown in from the wind. So it's a fun time of the year too, where you can fish a lot of, you know, unique patterns, you know, that are fun to fish and get fish reactions and catch fish on them. Okay, but again, there's not one hopper pattern that's gonna work better than another. Again, it's gonna be, you know, presentation, putting it in the right spots. Yeah, tributaries to the river too are getting low and warm, so those are probably places to, you know, avoid fishing until the cooler temperatures, you know, settle in, and we start seeing a little bit more flow in those smaller tributaries of the river. And fish won't, you know, fish aren't dumb. They won't hang around and die in the water. Of course, some get trapped, but, you know, when they feel the water get too low, they're gonna move, and they're typically gonna push, you know, out and move into the main stem. And even during these drought years, you know, we even see brook trout in the river, you know, around tributaries especially. You'll catch brook trout, and that's a key indicator, you know, that the water in the tributaries has gotten warm and that they've moved into the main stem of the river to find cooler, shadier spots. I've also gotten a lot of calls about what hoot owl means. So hoot owl is a term that was developed in Montana for their fisheries, and they initiate their hoot owl on their rivers when the water temperature reaches 70 degrees for 3 straight days. And what the hoot owl actually means is that they allow fishing from sunup until noon on most fisheries, sometimes a little bit longer. But if you're going there to Montana, you know, this summer, that you want to make sure that you check the regulations, check the emergency regulations for the river that you're fishing. Stop in at the fly shops along the river or in some of the major cities. There's all good fly shops there that'll have information about the fisheries, and they'll be able to give you guidance and tell you, you know, what's going on, when you should be fishing, you know, what you should be using for sure. So as far as here goes, again, it's not a lot of people really enjoy fishing at 95 or 100 degrees, and there's not many guides that enjoy that either. So, you know, we've gone to in our service, we've gone to running half days starting early in the morning, you know, and getting off before the extreme heat starts, or we're starting late in the day when it cools down and fishing into the evening hours. So we'll continue to do that through the rest of the summer, and of course we'll watch in August and see what river flows and water temperatures are doing, and we'll make adjustments accordingly. So I hope everybody's having a great summer. We are, for sure. And we appreciate everybody stopping by the fly shop. We love seeing you. Give us a call if you have any questions. Doesn't mean that you have to stop fishing, just have to be more aware of where you're fishing and at what time of the day. So just keep that in mind, and everybody have a good upcoming weekend, and we'll see you out here.